Hello, David Zritsky for the Bond Experience. Welcome back. Welcome back to the south of France, as you can see in the background. But ladies and gentlemen, affix your eyes to the gentleman in the foreground, Simon Firth. Hello, my friend.
Hello, 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 and thank you very much for having me.
I am so excited for this. I've been thinking about this for probably months, since the first time you told me about this project. But first of all, we've got to take in the surrounding. We're going to talk about the lovely images and copy that you see in front of you. But before we do that, can I pour you a nice rosé?
Absolutely, please do.
Is this a South of France rosé?
It is, yeah.
All right, so by the way, lest you think I'm a good host, I'm not. Simon brought this for me. It's almost like he's got to sing for his supper. But we couldn't think of a better, we thought about the drink because this is a Bond lifestyle channel, and yes, I wore the Quantum of Solace sunglasses and the Oliver Brown clothing for this guy. I got the Quantum of Solace watch on, but we had to have some atmosphere, so cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
What do they say in France to cheers?
Salut.
Salut.
Right.
Salut.
Or santé.
Asante. Oh, that's delicious. You know what that tastes like? Tastes like more.
Tastes like what?
It tastes like more, like we're going to have more and more and more. But if you're having a drink with us, this will be a fun way to kind of do this, because this is our YouTube channel version of a book launch. And now take us back for a second. We did one in the Bahamas up on stage, and it seems like this time there's like several book launches.
Well, for this book or for other things that I'm doing elsewhere?
For this book.
For this one, yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fair to say that about a month or two into actually writing this book, I was aware that I was going to be using a lot of knowledge and assistance from a number of French people, and I really wanted to somehow or other provide a thank you to the French people, and putting it in the French language was, I thought, a way of doing that. The fact that actually, by way of saying thank you to the French people, I actually had to ask for more help from very, very specifically two French people and my sister is by the by. But yeah, 2 books.
And we're going to get into that breakdown because, folks, this is a journey. And you know how I like to do it on this channel. We could talk about the book. I could give it a book review. We want to add some dimensionality, especially because we are here at a beautiful villa amongst good friends. Let's break this down and start with a very simple 3-letter word. Simon, after all of these books that you've done, why the south of France?
Well, no, it's all of France. It's all of France. This is Bond in France. This is not Bond in the Côte d'Azur. But basically, I love France. I've always loved France. I come from a family that are very much fully paid up members, card-carrying Francophiles. My mother pushed me through the school French exams. My mother, together with my father, they bought a house in France and they renovated it. We're using the help of a lot of French artisans. They made a lot of French friends on the way. My sister also double honours degree in German and French. Pretty much forgot the German, maintained the French. She too loves France, the language, the people, the sense of humour, the way of living. She's lived in France, in Tignes, Paris and Lyon. I've lived and worked in France as well. I just come from a family that absolutely loves France.
I'm getting that. And then you took that love and you took that homage and that passion and you connected it to another passion of yours, James Bond.
Right.
And so why flesh it out to this? To your point, and by the way, it's a good thing I'm corrected because you did one on the Côte d'Azur, but now you've expanded the umbrella. Did you feel like this was an internal passion, or were you being hounded by fans? What came first?
No, absolutely not. And in fact, I'll tell you this right now, David. France actually very nearly didn't happen because I had written the Côte d'Azur. I'd written the Côte d'Azur. I think it's fair to say that is a very, very different beast, a different animal compared to what we are doing right now in terms of the sheer size, the scope, and the people that I speak to. But actually, I did wonder whether I would be accused of selling the same product twice. I know that people do it in DVDs. I know that they have extras. And I know that people add extra chapters to a book and sell it again. I must admit, I was hanging back about that. But here's the thing. I think we came back from the Bahamas in, June 22. I had another couple of other misgivings about the book. But by August 22, I had started.
And that was it. You were off to the races.
I was off to the races, yeah.
All right, so you have this germ, and by the way, it's amazing how You literally have the book launch of one and then you're back into it, which folks, we would call that obsession, but we're happy that he has this obsession because now we have this book. But is it come from a love of writing? Because I know that you have a particular process that you go through.
It is. It's a love of actually. It's a love of three things, and I have been asked this before. One, yes, certainly, I do enjoy playing with words. I do enjoy looking to describe something and hopefully do it in the most informative and most accessible way we can understand. We can debate whether that has succeeded or not. I also love the journey of. As I'm researching and speaking to people, actually that I find so much else about France and about the Bond films, about the processes that if I was not doing these books, I would never find out. And thirdly, and I think most importantly actually, and subsequent to what happened between the Côte d'Azur book and the Italy book, I started to speak to people. I started to get from people their stories, their memories, their soul and their personality. And I think even though the Côte d'Azur book had its own way of evolving, I think as a result of moving to this way of working, it's provided a better product. But I love those three very specific entities.
This is a really important distinction that we're talking about. I want everybody to take a pause on this, because there are individuals that I know and you know that look at data banks. They look at the internet. They get their information that way. And then they build from there in their own creativity. You are, and he's going to be humble because he's British, you're like Bond. Bond has to go out into the field. He can't pull a trigger from his pajamas, as Q says.
Yeah.
He's got to go out into the field and do field work and speak to people. And it sounds like you're a little bit of that dark detective where you've got to go out there and engage. So is it part of the interview process that you love?
Gosh, well, let's take it maybe a step back
Unwrap
further,
that.
because I mean this happened by a very happy accident, and I will use that word advisedly. The Côte d'Azur book was me. It was more of a travelogue, and obviously then we engaged with the Bond locations, but there was no structure to it. There was no sense of order. It was a happy accident, which was starting out in life as an online article. But the love of where we are right now, I was living in the south of France, in Villefranche, 2019 for 2 months, and it absolutely grabbed me. We put the book out with Martijn Mulder, and it seemed to go down okay. And by the way, thank you very much indeed for your lovely review. And Martijn invited me back. And the next book was Italy. It was going to be Italy. There was a proximity to when No Time to Die was going to be released, and it just seemed sensible to do the Italy book. But then COVID happened. And I must admit, through naivety, I was thinking maybe I would maybe do the Italy book in exactly the same way as the Côte d'Azur book. But then COVID happened. You couldn't travel. You couldn't leave your house without a hard hat and a hazmat suit. You couldn't travel, and so the point of the interviews came out, because if I couldn't travel and I couldn't insert my soul and personality, what I didn't want to have was just an elongated list of locations, which can easily be done on the internet. There's got to be some heart and soul. So it became a necessity. And the way that actually that started was I spoke to a friend of mine. His name is Gareth Owen. He's the PA to the great man that was Sir Roger Moore.
Yes.
And I told him my problem. He said, well, look, let me hook you up with a couple of people. And he hooked me up with John Glenn and a couple of other people like that. But what that gave me was actually the confidence to go out there and actually find my own people. And as it happened, the people that I was finding were themselves predominantly Italian people. And then it just became a much better book. So yeah, I do love interviewing people and finding them.
Yeah, I think, well, to us laymen that read through this, because I read through the book, 2 sittings, by the way, only 2 sittings.
Wow.
That's pretty good, right?
Really?
That means it was a page turner. Yeah, and I'll tell you why. I mean, well, we'll get into stories in a second. I want to go ahead because I want to linger for 30 seconds more, because, again, I think I'm fascinated with peeling away the onion of your scope and process. And I always like to think, by the way, he's a very organized individual by trade and by personality. You need to know that about him. So I think about steps. I think about phases for you. So was it step 1, you look at the scope and the bigness of things, or step 1 looking at the people and the breakdown, or do you center on something like boom, I just throw a dart against the wall.
No, and thank you for the compliments. Yeah, I'm a project manager by trade, so for me,
Sure.
everything starts with a scope, or a list of requirements, if you will. And for this, the scope was basically an exhaustive list of every single location that happened in film, in book. I also look at the places where people lived, passed on, rested in peace, worked from, and I create this exhaustive list, and then I pass it over the fence to Martijn to see whether I've made any glaring errors. You know, they can happen.
Checks and balances, yeah.
Yep. And once he's approved it, once he's reviewed and approved that, then at that point, then I look to start how to introduce the book. But for this particular book, Martijn sort of he came up with another little twist, if you will, and he said, I think, Simon, what you need to do for this book actually is to compartmentalize all of the locations into little geographical pockets of France. So if people are driving through the north of France, then give them a west to east or an east to west drive. If people are in a certain area, give them a circular drive. If people are walking through Paris, give them a left to right or right to left walk. So so where that became more interesting was that every single one of these locations, and predominantly this would have been in Paris, where it got to be the most tricky, would be to put all of those locations into Google Maps and then to work out a route that would then make sense. And then that would give me both the totality of everything that needed to be written, together with the sequence in which they would have to be reported on. So what that means is, yeah, absolutely, we're not looking at the natural sequence of GoldenEye or Never Say Never Again. We're not looking at the natural sequence of Forever and a Day and Never Dream of Dying. But I think that this is going to make it more accessible if people find themselves in the Côte d'Azur.
Absolutely. And again, I talk about dimensionality and the why. I mean, I think so many people that will come to this book may be literary Bond, you'll get that in here. You might be style Bond, you'll get that in here. You want Bond alumni, they're in here. You want locations in film, it's in here.
Yeah.
So it's so well-rounded. And by the way, 10, 11 minutes in, enough about process and structure. You're wondering to yourself, do I click that link below? I know what you're wondering. And look, these are beautiful books. Some people put them on the shelves. It's meant to be read. So based on the content, I gave him a phraseology he had never heard before, so it's a little bit of an educational moment for this man. I said, Simon, it would be great if you shared with my audience what I call an aha moment. Like in your detective moments, was there a aha, I didn't know that? Did somebody give you a piece of information or a location or something that was wrong in the past that you were like, aha, wow, I didn't know that?
Well, I will say right off the bat, for those people who bought, and I thank you very much indeed, and enjoyed the Bahamas book. Within this book, there are no journeys into derelict houses and fighting snakes. No, there was going to be something like that, but actually that seemed to be covered off by a friend of mine. I mean, honestly, some of the smallest things. So if you remember, harking back to the very beginning of Diamonds Are Forever, 1971, it's the pre-credit sequence, and it shows Bond trailing or going through 3 people to try and find Blofeld. And the first 2 people that he breaks personally and physically, they're pretty much shot in a studio. And the third person that she goes to meet to get the link and the trace on Blofeld is through the actress Denise Perrier in the south of France. Now, for a long time, that was considered to have been filmed at the Hotel de Cap Eden Rock, and that turned out not to be the case. Now, a friend of mine, Thomas Gleitzam, he actually unearthed the actual location, and it's in a house it's a huge house, let's say a mansion villa in the Bay of Billionaires. I mean, it tells you exactly where that is going to be. But for me, it was why. Going back to your first question at the beginning of this chat, it was why on earth would a film production company film the first 2 people being sliced up by Sean Connery as James Bond in a cheap, let's call it what it is, a cheap studio set, and then for the third one, go all the way down to the south of France for 40 seconds of film. And to be honest, I mean, it's in the book. I don't know whether you want to release it or not, but I mean, the only thing that we can possibly come up with is that Terence Young was living next door to this house at the point of filming, and Sean Connery wanted to go and have an excuse to go and see his friend.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those quirky things, right?
But okay, yeah, we collect stories.
Yeah.
As Bond aficionados, as fans, we collect stories. That's a wonderful story. I love that story.
Yeah, it's something.
And by the way, so this is an interesting thing. Again, Simon may not know this or not. Could be aha for him. Again, while we've been here, we had a boat tour group take a few of the Bond fans, I didn't get to go, to that particular Diamonds Are Forever house from the outside, because you can only approach it by boat.
Yes.
You can't get there privately, and you can get as far as the buoys, and they drove past it and took their pictures and then drove away.
Really?
So they've been to that
Wow.
location.
Okay, I absolutely was not aware of that.
Yeah, so you can, some of the boats that we're taking to Gatherall, that's a cruise that can take you to that area.
Okay, wow.
So you might have to do that now.
I might have to do that, yes. I
We
might
know,
have to do that.
we know people, and we have people everywhere. So, all right, aha moments, the stories. There are some stories in here. And again, I'm going to tease these out because I really do want you to read this for yourself. It's meant to be enjoyed over a glass of wine with friends like we're doing, or read for yourself and talk about with friends. But there's one in here, and that is the interviews with some of the Bond stars like Barbara Carrera. And very shortly, within a day or two from when we're recording this, we will be speaking to her. Some people will be interviewing her. How did you find her, and was she, I already know the answer to this, was she incredibly helpful to the book?
She was, and in fact, this is now the second time that I have spoken to Barbara, and this is the first time was obviously for the other half of Never Say Never Again, so that was for the Bahamas book, and she was absolutely delightful there. And I must admit, I did have some concerns about going back to the well twice and abusing my position, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I think I spoke with Anders, and I sent her an email, and I said, you know, I'm doing this book. It's about France. Would you possibly? She said, yeah. She said, oh my God, yeah.
Just right away.
Just right away. And again, I immediately had to ask, well, it's very kind of you. Can't wait to get into this. Just why? She said, I grew up in Paris. I became a lady and a woman in Paris. My favourite part of the world is the south of France.
Right.
I had various boyfriends and this, that and the other down here. And it's just a place that she absolutely, positively loves. And the thing with this book actually is that not only did she speak with me for the content of the book, but because of her passion, I said, look, Barbara, you've got to have the last word. So I sign off with my conclusion and my thanks, and then this book closes off with Barbara's experience of living in a rather famous house called Liseletta on the just below Aix on the Riviera.
You can see it really well from the water. We went by there as well.
You did, right?
It's beautiful.
Okay, right.
With the little island that says out there.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, yes, Barbara was immensely helpful, but honestly, this one, I think, you know, we were both falling through an open door on this particular subject matter.
Yeah. All right. Look, you've all been part, I don't know, 17 minutes in of a comfortable conversation. This may get a little uncomfortable.
All right.
And I apologize, but it's friends drinking wine in the south of France.
You're going to take advantage of me right now, aren't you?
It's like he knows what's coming. The boudoir, sir? No. So, that's terrible French. Boudoir? Je ne sais pas.
Boudoir.
Boudoir. We're not cutting any of this out, by the way. This is gold. All right, so help me help them, because we've been waxing poetic about Never Say Never Again. This book is not just about Never Say Never Again. In fact, we dare say this is the English-speaking cover.
Yeah.
And here is the French-speaking cover, and we see, of course, Famke Janssen and Pierce Brosnan in a scene from GoldenEye. So is it safe to say that we've got some GoldenEye moments in here? See how
We've got a
I
few,
lead them on?
We've got a few GoldenEye moments, absolutely.
It's going to stuff it down your throat. But it is, because I think here's the danger, and this is us being very authentic to all of you. Never Say Never Again may not be your favorite Bond film. It may not be your favorite Bond film in the world. However, the moments and the locations, and I think even Connery's acting is inarguable. I think it's fantastic, and then when you come here, it brings it back. But for those that want to read about other Bond films, this has a host of different ones in there.
Oh yeah, obviously we have A View to Kill, there's Moonraker, there is Thunderball, and I hope I can beg everyone's indulgence because I have included the books. There are a number of books that have included France and certainly the south of France from a number of the authors. So I have specifically looked to expand the boundaries because I think I think there's no reason not to have an excuse to explore more of France.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I had some fun, speaking with the likes of Raymond Benson and Anthony Horowitz. But the point I think I want to make about this is that, and I don't know whether I'm speaking too early about this, but this book for me is actually very important because it actually France is the very first location into which James Bond was introduced to the world, and I think that is an inarguable reason for venturing on this particular route.
I like that. No, that's a great. France is the main character of these books, and I hate to be like that and personify it, but it's at the epicenter. James Bond is the satellite that's going around there. So for the movies and everything like that, come for France, stay for James Bond.
Yeah, yeah.
Would be the takeaway. By the way, we did something untoward. We referred to these beautiful covers. We need to talk about the equally beautiful artist behind this.
Jeff Marshall.
Jeff Marshall.
Yeah.
He's back and he's better than ever.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Talk to me about the process. So, all right, I'm going to guess, and you tell me how wrong I am. You call up Jeff Marshall, go, Jeff, baby. That was terrible English accent. Jeff, I have another book coming out, and he goes, right, do a creative brief, draw up what you think it should be, who should include. Like, how much is his creativity versus your creativity?
Oh, I mean, ultimately it is all his creativity, but yeah, again, going back to the project management, not that this guy does not know his James Bond, not at all, but for my own organization, a sense of organization, I create a brief which then looks at all of the films. I put that together. I look at all of the books as well, the specific locations. And then I would very, very, very tentatively suggest a color palette, so to take it away from the colors of the other books, and then off you go. In terms of when I do this, yeah, absolutely. The cover is probably the last thing that needs to be assigned to the book. But I'll tell you this. I get in touch with him around about a month, maybe 2 months into writing the book, and why? Because I need to work to what I understand would be how the final product looks. I like to work towards a final product. I need to have that in my mind. And then, actually, then there are also times when I don't mind admitting that I will be struggling from time to time about how to introduce a particular subject matter, or indeed even a paragraph. And I get frustrated with it. I get, it's not writer's block because I'm not writing characters or stories. But if I'm not getting it, then I just chuck it to one side. I bring out Jeff Marshall's art, and that just. I'm honestly, I mean it. The guy is inspiring. So I bring that cover out, and it kind of gets me back on track. And that for me is it's so helpful, and it's very, very specifically why I get in touch with him so early on in the process.
You know what we call that? We call that a creative compass. And Jeff Marshall is part of your creative compasses that you have in your armament.
I had not heard of that terminology. Oh, okay.
I'm going to give you a chance. Only one, to look at that camera right there, look and talk to my audience, and tell them why should they buy this book?
These books, specifically, actually Bond in France, it is a celebration of both the country and James Bond's time in it. We've talked about the walks and the drives. I have peppered the routes and the writing with little places to stop off and have a drink, Bond-related. Stop off and have a bite to eat, Bond-related. Be it film, be it book, and this I hope is a perfect Bond experience. Please, I hope you buy the book, and I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, links are below. I will tell you this too. I know a lot of people, and you know who you are out there, will often buy these for friends and family, and and other Bond fans in their lives. You can't see what we're seeing right now. It's a beautiful physical book. These are hardcover, they're beautiful, the covers, the pictures inside, and I know you all care about this, are very crisp. But speaking of crisp, I'm going to end this with a question to which Simon never expected, because of course we have to throw him one of these. And he may not even know the answer, but we're still going to ask. Simon, hot off the heels of this, you have a book launch in a few days. If I go back in history and think about the Bahamas, that motivated you to do a new one of these books. Do you think you'll walk out of this book launch in a couple days motivated in your heart to do a new book?
I have already started it, and I have already put together the list of requirements and the bullet points, and I have already started it. But I knew that I wanted to leave it alone. I knew that I wanted to have something there to draw me back in, to come back to, specifically after an event like this. So I am definitely going back into something.
We can't wait. We'll be there wherever you are. My good friend Simon. Simon, thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you.
Enjoy the book, everybody. I know you will. And by the way, if you've already have it in hand, leave comments below. Let us know how you like it, either here or on Instagram. In the meantime, this has been David Zaritsky, signing off from the south of France. We'll see you all real soon. Take care. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.